He's hitting the button. You're good.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Show Me the Meaning, Wisecrack's movie podcast.
Show me the meaning!
My name is Jared. I'm joined here by the Show Me the Meaning crew. We got Tommy.
Hello, Jared.
And Ryan.
What up? I am the one who knocks.
Today we're breaking down El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie written and directed by Vince Gilligan, starring Aaron Paul. But before we go around and get everyone's first impressions, want to give some reminders. First up top, we're now doing articles. Check out our articles at medium.com/wisecrack. Secondly, we are doing our South Park podcast. We do it every year when South Park is on. South Park is on now. It's called Respect Our Authority. Check that out on iTunes. Thirdly, I am going to be doing panels at the Austin Film Festival starting next weekend. It's in Austin, Texas. Use the promo code Wisecrack25 to get $25 off badges. It's October 24th through 31st in Austin, Texas. If you're a writer, if you're a filmmaker, come meet me down there. It'll be fun. And lastly, Rick and Morty's coming back mid-November. We're doing our podcast for that, The Squanch, so put it on your calendar. We're going to be breaking down every episode, but without further ado, what did you think of El Camino? Let's start with Tommy.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I liked it a lot, actually. I really, there are some great sequences in this movie. I love everything with Todd and Jesse. I love that whole flashback sequence. I love the scene of Jesse tearing up his house, looking for the money. The Mexican standoff I thought was great. Just nuts and bolts of the movie I thought were great. But I got a little confused about like what the movie thematically is trying to say, especially in sort of the larger context of this sort of Breaking Bad universe. I almost actually think this movie works better as a standalone than as an epilogue to Breaking Bad. And, yeah,
interesting.
I don't know if we should get into it right now, but there's some thematically confusing things, especially in light of Breaking Bad, I think, and sort of the arc of that show.
Okay, cool. Ryan, what do you think?
Well, as you know, Jared, I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan. Me and you, I think we really got off on that series. We did a whole series on Earthling Cinema on Breaking Bad. Everything. It was great. I thought this was one of the most pointless, like solid, like fan servicey. Why does this exist in any universe? Why did Vince Gilligan think that this script in particular what needed to be made, like the end of the finale to Breaking Bad, while I had some problems with it, it was pretty perfect. I love the last scene time I get to see Jesse, whose character arc I love, just him freaking out in the car, like, all right, he gets one more, there's hope. I read an interview with Vince Gilligan. He's, and he said, like, I've always just, I wanted to know, like, what did Jesse do next? Like what in this movie is, very literally what he did next, the very next couple of days, and it's so boring. It's like, what did he do next?
Disagree.
I mean, it's not momentous. Yeah. There's no big paradigm shift that a movie event would seem to get, but I'm okay with that.
That's what Breaking Bad is. Why? It's about these smaller moments.
It's not like it, and that's what I would get to too. Is that this has the Better Call Saul syndrome, where they took everything good about Breaking Bad. I mean, I like Better Call Saul kind of, but like they take everything cool about Breaking Bad and they just kind of stretch it out, make it so meditative, make it so kind of not Breaking Bad had a literally why everyone loves it is the momentum, is the drive, is the tone and force of the story. The very, like, every scene mattered, every moment mattered, and this movie was just like, of course Jesse's fucked up after what happened to him. I get it. I don't need 2 hours of him being tortured and then just looking for money. That's the other fucking thing I have about this movie. This movie could have been about any character, anybody, just another gangster movie about a guy looking for money, but it just happens to be Jesse Pinkman. And then every once in a while we run into a character we've seen before, and it amounts to nothing, I feel like.
See, I am in the middle of both of you because I think it's a perfect epilogue.
Oh, okay.
And so I think it's actually, it connects perfectly with where we end. But I mean, obviously I would have liked this movie to reveal something that totally knocks my socks off and makes me rethink the whole season in a way that's very fulfilling. But I don't know, I'll take what's basically just a long episode of Breaking Bad that has a little bit of it's just basically an epilogue. It's like extending how they ended it. And I'm fine with that.
Why? Well, I'm not.
I will say that
It
this
was perfect before how it ended.
I will say that it felt to me, to get into sort of the thematics of the movie, it felt to me like the inverse of Breaking Bad, where in Breaking Bad, it's all about Walter White sort of seizing his own destiny, seizing the moment, becoming self-actualized, and sort of the, the negative sort of consequences of that. And Jesse does the exact same thing in this movie. He's a guy, I mean, literally Mike tells him, like, oh, you got to live for yourself, Jesse. And at the end of the movie, Jane tells him, like, you got to take destiny in your own hands, you know, do it yourself. And that is sort of the message of the movie, that, Jesse can't be, listening to Walt listening to, listening to Mr. White anymore. He can't, can't be, beholden to, Todd and being forced to be a slave. He has to take, his own destiny in his hands and blow everything up. But unlike Breaking Bad, where there's a cost to it, here it's presented as a, as catharsis, as, a great thing for Jesse. And that's where it becomes weird for me, at least.
Well, I don't think that we need to see that because Walter White took control of his life, that people taking control of their own life in general is a bad thing. I agree that is the message of the movie. And I think there actually is some interesting things into where Jesse is kind of becoming Walt, but perhaps in a more benevolent way that
I think that's it. He's the benevolent Walter White. Yeah. And I was like, what are they trying to say with that? Like, it's okay to kill people as long as they're evil? Like, as long as you're not, poisoning a child, it's okay? Is that the thought?
I think he doesn't have the uncontrolled pride and ambition that Walter had.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go into a recap, and then we'll get more into those details. So,
whoa, this movie sucks.
Seconds after the finale of Breaking Bad, Jesse Pinkman has escaped the neo-Nazi ranch and is on the run from the police. Still reeling from his time in a cage, Jesse finds refuge with Badger and Skinny Pete, but when they discover the police have been tracking his car, Jesse has to switch cars and hit the road. Knowing that he needs money to make his escape, Jesse sneaks into Todd's apartment hoping to find his secret stash of money. Intercut with this is a memory of Todd taking Jesse to town during his imprisonment, where he forced Jesse to help bury the body of his housekeeper in his apartment. At one point, Jesse even has the opportunity to kill Todd, but hesitates. Back in the present, Jesse finds the money but is immediately intercepted by two people posing as cops. Jesse soon recognizes them as Neil and Casey, the contractors who built the cage he was kept in. Jesse bargains for a third of the money and heads off to Ed's vacuum shop to buy a new life. Problem is, he's $1,800 short, so he diverts his parents, steals his dad's guns, and heads to Neil and Casey's shop to get more money. Neil requests they do a Western-style shootout for the money, and Jesse kills him and Casey. With all the money now, Jesse purchases a new identity from Ed and is driven to Alaska. With a new life in front of him, Jesse thinks about Jane, who tells him he ought not take seriously her go-with-the-flow philosophy, but take control of his life. End of movie. So, more to what Tommy was saying about control. In a sense, at the end of the series, I thought that even without this movie, that was Jesse's arc. Because at the end of the movie, at the end of the series, Jesse slides the gun over to Walter and tells him to do it yourself. This was already kind of the indication that he was going to take control of his life, because the whole do-it-yourself thing was contra to people always telling him what to do. Walt would tell him to do it when he wanted him to kill him, when he was strangling him. I think it was in season 1 or 2. Walt tells him to do it when he wants him to kill Gale. And then by telling Walt to do it yourself, I thought we were meant to read this as him no longer being a puppet and taking control of his life. I mean, he's literally a puppet when they chain him to the ceiling. It's like he's a marionette. Even Hank uses Jesse as a piece of bait to lure Walt out in season 5. And this movie is an elaboration on that. He's too passive to kill Todd when he has the chance. Then there's the thing where you mentioned where he flashes back to Jane and tells him that he needs to take responsibility for his own actions. And so, yeah, would I have liked more development? Would I have liked it to be, yes, he takes control of his life, which we got at the end of the series, and something else? Maybe, but I enjoyed it. I was kind of on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, no, I think the nuts and bolts of the movie really work. It's just that I felt like the ending of Breaking Bad, at least for Jesse, was much more ambiguous, where I'm not sure what to feel. Like, I'm not sure if this is a positive ending for Jesse or a negative ending, or I'm not sure what's in store for him, versus the end of El Camino, where I feel like it's 100% uplifting. Like, oh, Jesse's riding off into the Alaskan sunset. Things are going to be good for him now. And I was just like, has he earned that? Like, I wasn't.
Well, what do you think about when Mike says at the beginning that you can never make things right?
Yeah, that was what I thought the movie was going to be about, but doesn't really delve into that. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't. I don't think he's like dealing with. I mean, if the movie was about him, like trying to get over something, but being unable to sort of get over his past misdeeds. But I don't think he ever is accountable for anything.
Maybe it would have been better if they showed Brock get his letter, but his life still fucking sucks.
Yeah, I mean, there's no accountability for Jesse's actions. I mean, he did murder a person. I mean, multiple people. I mean, he's not. I mean, yes, in the terms of Breaking Bad, I think he's the closest thing to a hero. But I mean, he's not that great.
No. Yeah. He's not as bad as Walt, though, and I think and it is nice to see a version of the Walt story happen that doesn't end in catastrophe.
Mm-hmm. But shouldn't it?
Should it? I don't know. Not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the simple message of you got to take care of yourself. I mean. You got to make choices for yourself at the end of the movie. I just didn't feel like we needed a whole film for that. And also, I feel like I agree with you, Jared, what you just said about Brock getting the letter. That it would have been way more interesting if he had gotten to Alaska way earlier in the movie. And then, I don't know, it would have been more of an epic movie or something like where it's like in the future, and then he is trying to make things right. I mean, yeah, because I agree. He didn't really earn his Alaskan vacation he's going to go on for the rest of his life.
I think really the problem is just the term movie, because we've brought up when we were kids, when we were growing up, every time there was a movie made out of a TV show, it was a fucking event with a capital E, and it was going to, remember when the X-Files movie came out and it was bridging, they actually see real aliens for the first time. It was like a paradigm shift. We're not going to get that with this. Also, because it's a piece of Netflix content. You watch all of Breaking Bad on Netflix, and then you just scroll over to this, and here it is, just a 30-minute longer episode.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, if this was just a standalone movie and it didn't have Breaking Bad sort of on its, heels or on its shoulders, like, it would just be a very simple story about a guy trying to get over his past, trying to become self-actualized, just a simple crime thriller, sort of a nuts and bolts type thing. And I think I would love it. But because of the Breaking Bad ties, because Walt has the exact same arc, it made me sort of question, like, what is the movie trying to say about Jesse having the same arc, but not have to deal with any of the sort of emotional consequences that Walt has to deal with?
Because Jesse doesn't fall from pride. He doesn't enjoy the killing. That's the difference.
Okay.
And I think that's what makes him the better man. That allows him to have this
But
happier
do you
ending.
feel like the movie deals with sort of Mike's sort of proclamation that you can never change the past, Jesse? You can run away as far as you want, but it'll, nothing will change for you.
Well, so one thing that perhaps I would have preferred them emphasize more is that he regrets the relationship that he has with his parents, because right now it kind of seems like, I mean, when I watch the movie, I'm like, fuck those parents.
Oh yeah, they suck.
They suck. Maybe he would have snuck back in the house and maybe felt more regret for the position that he's put them in, or maybe tries to fix things with them but can't. But he's kind of already given up on them and only manipulates them in the movie.
Yeah, he's only interested in himself and getting himself to Alaska.
Hey man, the cops are on your tail. What are you going to do?
I mean, sure.
Stealing their guns. And to your point about it being, what is it, a movie or an epilogue or whatever, a long episode? I mean, that is a part of my negative reaction. I feel like I don't want to harp on this too long, but that is the only reason this movie exists. It is, I do believe it's a cash grab. Netflix probably went to Vince Gilligan and was like, here's $1 billion. Can you, we can make a cheap Breaking Bad movie, bill it as an event, and bump up our whatever view count or whatever the fuck. I mean, I think that is the genesis of this. I don't think it's Vince Gilligan going, I have such an inspired script that I can't wait to show the world.
I agree with that, but every single time there's been a movie based off of a TV show that tries to build off the same mythos established in the TV show, it's a fucking catastrophe.
The Sex and the City movie is a masterpiece.
Yeah, but how about the second one?
Okay, well, that's something different.
When I lived with Ryan, he watched all of Sex and the City for a movie he was going to write and then decided not to write it.
Regrettably, that's a summer I wish I could get back, honestly.
Yeah, so I agree that that's probably what happened. I mean, Netflix just dumped part of its unlimited money on Vince Gilligan's doorstep. But at the same time, I would prefer that he did something measured and restrained that still feels like an authentic episode of Breaking Bad than try to blow it out of the water, resurrect Walter White, and spend $200 million making some sort of Fast and the Furious car chase action scene just to make it worthy for cinemas.
I agree with that, but we don't need that. But Breaking Bad is not measured and restrained. I mean, it is to agree, but you know, there's fucked up shit in this in that show. There's not really anything.
Yeah, but fucked up shit that builds over hours and seasons.
Yeah, okay. I'm not saying we need it needs to be a trauma movie, but I'm just saying like something. Give me anything out of the ordinary. Breaking Bad.
He virtually becomes Walt when he walks into the contractor's place with a way to fool them to get what he wants. I mean, that's a pretty significant character transformation. You know,
I guess he does have a duel.
He has a duel. He does the same thing that Walt does when Walt kills Uncle Jack and all of his people. He goes into a place alone, outgunned, outmanned, and he's just got a trick up his sleeve to basically win. And it's kind of cool to see him taking the advice of his mentor, because as much as they hated each other at the end, they still went through a lot and they learned a lot from each other.
I did like the diner scene. That was funny and cool. And
I love the diner scene.
I loved every scene in the movie, honestly. I thought every scene, every interaction was perfectly written, perfectly acted. Special mention to Robert Foster.
R.I.P.
Yeah, terrific. He's terrific in the movie. It's just, I'm not sure what the movie's saying, but the individual pieces I think are all great. Like, I think Vince Gilligan is at like the height of his, you know, of his power of like small moments and just dissecting them and exploring them. And I like that. I like that smaller scale.
You like seeing your old friends back together again.
You know, sometimes that's enough.
I actually, my least favorite scene is probably the Walter White scene. Like, my favorite scene is the Todd scene, is the looking for the money, is the Robert Foster scene. Like, the Walt stuff feels a little bit more fan servicey to me, but.
I mean, they could have done so much more. Like, I felt it was responsibly restrained for it to be one scene that Walter is not alive. That it's
no, I agree. Yeah, and I mean, it's all about Jesse. It's all. I mean, all these flashbacks are all about like, what is Jesse going to do in the future? I mean, they sort of hammer that home a lot. But.
See, I felt like that meal scene was really dense while not. While still seeming very authentic and not preachy. So. We have this whole thing with Jesse not having plans on what he wants to do with his life. He doesn't know if he wants to go to college. So once again, we're establishing that he is not taking control of his life. I really like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, perhaps this was already established in the series. I just haven't seen it in a while. But it's the first time that we established that Walter really had an out. He had a reason to not keep going. Jesse promised to give the money to his family even after he was dead, but... he just liked it too much.
I can't remember. I thought he had multiple outs.
Maybe.
But yeah, definitely.
And then obviously, so another indication. I think this is the only indication that we get that at least Walter actually saying that he likes doing it when he says, "You're lucky you didn't wait until you're old to do something spectacular." We only hear him say, "I liked it," like in the the last episode of the whole show.
That I think that is the purpose of the scene, is that line right there.
And do you think that it's more of Jesse not taking action in that he did not recognize then and there that Walter is a ticking time bomb and he should have divorced himself from the situation?
Probably.
Yeah, I think there's something to that.
Can we take a moment to appreciate how funny it is that Todd, you know, they're like things supposed to be flashbacks, and he must be like 40 pounds.
I did notice that.
Stop it! Give Jesse Plemons a break, Brian.
It's like this is a flashback to the exact scene we saw. I saw that scene. That's not how he looked.
Jesse Plemons is in fine form in this movie. In fine form.
He's a great actor.
He's great.
He's an amazing actor. Yes. That crossed my mind, but I was like, you know, I probably just don't remember the show that well, because I just feel like most movies these days, you know, just hire a trainer for 6 weeks before you start shooting. That's what everyone does.
Yeah, they kept talking about how Jesse's like, oh yeah, high school. I'm like, dude, you're like 40 years old. I mean, he looks just as old as Walter.
I'm surprised they didn't do some digital touch-ups with all this Irishman technology we got these days.
Yeah.
You know.
So, do you guys think there's any relevance to the title El Camino, or that the car represents anything? I was struggling with that.
Yeah, because it doesn't really factor into much of the movie. He gives
Yeah.
it up like 1/3 of the way into it. So
Other than it's Todd's car.
Yeah.
At the end of the series, he steals it. And I guess that act of him stealing it and then, choosing his own direction in life, cars traditionally have been this symbol of freedom, symbol of having freedom over your own life. And maybe it doesn't really function that way in this movie.
Yeah.
It might have if we just think of the series alone, him driving off into the sunset, having his own car, doing his own thing after having told Walter to do it yourself. I think then it works as a symbol of taking control of your own life. But in this movie, I mean, Todd gets him to put a canopy on the car to dispose of a body. The other thing, I don't really know why that's relevant, but the other thing that maybe is relevant is the fact that, so we see the scene where Jesse, he gets the gun out of the glove box and he does not shoot Todd with it. He does not take action when he clearly should have. And then I think we see in the present, when the movie's taking place, that the gun is still there, as if Jesse Plemons, Todd, never actually even took it out. He was just so confident that Jesse would never try to betray him and never try to shoot him, that he was so thoroughly dehumanized by him.
Also, El Camino is Spanish for like the path or the road, the way.
I mean, what's interesting is that in terms of making your own path, even though he gets a new car, he's always given the car. Like he never gets a new car. He never takes a car for his own, if that makes any sense. Like he steals Todd's car. He then takes Skinny Pete's car. I think it's Skinny Pete's car. And then at the end, Ed gives him a new car. So it's not really like, if you're going to go into the sort of metaphor of he's got to find his own path, he's got to find his own car on the road to somewhere else. He's still using somebody else's car
People
to
are
get there.
still giving cars. Yeah.
So I'm not sure what sort of message that's trying to impart there.
Yeah. Were you guys at all disappointed that the salvation kind of comes just back to the Robert Forster character, which we've seen that Walt did, that Saul did, and that okay, we're just revisiting this.
I wish there was like a third act. Yeah, I wish there was a third act twist to it. Like I love the thought of going to him and then he's like, I'm not going to give it to you for $1,800. I love that, but the fact that he is ultimately the solution, that they go back to him again, is a little. I don't know how. I think they want a happy ending for him.
Yeah.
So that is the easiest way to give him a happy ending.
I mean, the other version of this story,
he goes to Brock and then gets caught.
Exactly.
Yes.
Goes to Brock, tries to do for Brock what Walt did for Walt Jr., and maybe dies in a blaze of glory. That's another option.
I almost think that's the better ending. Not dying in a blaze of glory, but like owning up for your past mistakes. Like I could go to Alaska and be free, or I can make up for the errors of my past, and I go see Brock and I deliver this letter in person, and then that sort of cost me, and then I go to jail theoretically. But I don't know if that's the happy ending fans would want. So
yeah, I think we all feel bad for Jesse.
Yeah, we all feel bad for him. That's the thing. Do you want? You don't want
the victim.
Since he's been locked up in the past. Ending with him being locked up is, I think, a hard message to say. I guess I'm talking myself out of it now.
Yeah. What do you think, Ryan?
About which part specifically?
About just which ending would you prefer?
I wish something to do with Brock more than just kind of like, I'll give you, he'll get a birthday card from me. I mean, I assume it told the whole story and everything, which is nice, but like, yeah, I think like more needed to happen.
Yeah. Did you guys pick up any? So when the whole shootout thing happened, I was at that point, and plus with the title El Camino, I was like, oh, are they trying to do some sort of revisionist Western thing where Jesse's trying to escape being a man of violence, but being pulled back in for that one final time to kill people in order to be liberated, like the Clint Eastwood character in Unforgiven, for example?
I mean, like he has the option to kill the cop early on, and he's like, I'm no cop killer.
The cop.
Oh yeah, the cop. Yeah, but he's not Jesse's never been
a
gunslinger to begin with. I think that's the problem in that. Like, if he was someone who was, dealing with hurting other people and like, I'm jonesing to kill, but I don't want to do it.
He's always been the reluctant man of violence. He did not like killing Gale.
If anything, he goes full-hearted into the violence. If anything, it's a guy, being like, I'm reluctant to do this, and now at the end, I'll be Walter White, and I'll shoot this guy.
But it's because he had to be. I mean, he's still reluctant about it. I mean, they very smartly never give us any indication that he feels like a badass. There are so many shots of Walter White after winning where he looks like a fucking badass. Like, cue the music.
He's driving away as the thing blows up in the background. I don't know. That's kind of a badass Jesse shot.
I never really felt the kind of swell of, oh, fuck yeah, like I did with Walter White thing. I mean, there was definitely, if I remember the shot correctly, he's not actually driving. It's just he's sitting in the car. We see the explosion in the background. Yeah, maybe it's pretty badass, but it's not as badass as when Walter White when he blew up the car of the guy who was like, what's his name? Like Ken, the guy who's like a Wall Street broker who always wins, and he's got this shitbag car, and he's got that, his license plate says Ken wins, and Walter White just goes over there and uses science and makes his car, makes the batteries connect and makes the car go up in flames, and then walks out in slow motion. Just so good. Like, we didn't want to get anything like that,
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, well, that's a Walt thing, man. Jesse doesn't like it. That's the distinction. I think that's the whole point of the movie is Jesse doesn't like it.
I guess
that's why he gets the happy ending.
Let me just put it this way: the tone of that scene, I would have loved.
Oh yeah, I mean, because that's so fun. I mean, that's when you end a Breaking Bad episode with shivers instead of just that was okay. Yeah.
I guess I don't see him ever, being like, oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't see that dramatized in the movie very much.
Well, he's the one that has the empathy. He's the one that has a line that he will not cross. He will not poison a kid.
Okay. But that was in the series. I mean, now that's what I'm saying. Like in the movie, it's okay for him to, kill people because they're awful. So it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but it could also be argued that the reason why he didn't kill Todd in the desert is because eventually Uncle Jack would get to Brock.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think would the movie? Do you think the movie posits that he should have killed Todd in the desert? Like, I feel like that's what the movie's getting at.
That's what I thought until I just said that. So now I don't really know. Because he would have killed Todd in the desert. Uncle Jack would have eventually figured it out. Jesse wouldn't be there, and I guess Jesse could pick up Brock and try to escape with him, but then he would have really no recourse for finding money. Well, actually, no, he could have stole Todd's money. Yeah, he already knew where it was. It was in the encyclopedias.
It was in a much easier place at that point.
Okay, that doesn't really hold up either. Anyway, that's all I have for this movie. Anything else you guys want to bring up?
I guess he can't go back to Brock because Mike, or he learned from Mike that he can't make it right. So I just got to give him a card.
But he never tries to make it right. That's my biggest issue with the movie.
I have to believe in the card there was, here's a stash of money I left you, or I'm going to pay your way through college. Not just like, how's it going, champ?
Right.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think Brock is going to come get revenge and look for Jesse in Alaska?
I mean, who knows if Brock is ever even going to understand what happened. He probably just thinks that his mom was breaking Brock. He probably just thinks that his mother was killed by some hoodlum.
The thing I like about Better Call Saul is that, yes, Saul gets away, but maybe it's worse. Like, maybe getting away is even a worse fate for him.
I haven't seen any.
Versus
I haven't
here,
seen any of it.
Yeah, but versus here, it's the opposite message where Jesse gets away, and I think we're supposed to think, oh, he's going to live his life in Alaska, and everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah, but did you really end the series thinking that when Jesse went away that he would? He's probably going to get intercepted by the cops and thrown in prison and ass-rammed for the rest of his days.
I think it could have gone either way. I think that ending is very ambiguous, whether or not he's going to make it out or what's going to happen to him 10 minutes from now.
Well, see, that's where I think there's the potency of the El Camino, because I do think that he just stole a car, just told Walt, do it yourself, fuck you, and now he's just basically riding into the sunset. Yeah. I think there's a pretty strong visual indication that he is free, that he is going to find something else in life.
No, I agree with that. I just don't know if he deserves it.
Okay. All right. Mailbag, Ryan, or anything else?
Oh, yeah, let's go mailbag.
All right, cool. We got a bunch of stuff about the Joker. You can hit us up at movies@wisecrack.co, or just Joker, sorry. Let's go. We've got, you want to hit us up? Voicemail 213-534-8807. We got something from Bud.
What's up,
Go,
Wisecrack?
Bud.
My name is Bud. I just listened to your podcast on Joker. I think it's definitely meant to be a satire. Like, it feels a lot like Fight Club to me, in the sense that there's a leader whose rejection of meaning is taken by his followers to be meaningful. I also think there's something in there about, in The Dark Knight, there's a scene where the Joker is asking Batman to hit him with a motorcycle so that it'll kill him. And then in Joker, he has that line in his book about, I hope my death makes more sense than my life did. I think maybe he's embracing an evil so that eventually when he's killed, his death makes sense. I don't know. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on those two things. All right, have a great day, guys.
So for the first one, the whole thing about people saying, and I haven't heard other people say this, but the idea that it's a satire because he doesn't actually believe in the political project that he inspires. My problem with that is that I think that most people walk away thinking that the movie has a socially important message, that if the people who are struggling are not recognized as human beings in our society, then bad shit is going to happen. And if we are supposed to look at the people who are raging in the streets because of the social inequality, and if it's a satire, I don't think we're supposed to look at them like clowns. The whole thing of them being clowns is supposed to be, no, that's wrong. Thomas Wayne is a jackass, whereas the Project Mayhem dudes are clowns.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's more in terms of. I feel like it fits more in terms of Todd Phillips' anti-human sentiments, where he just hates everybody. So he hates Thomas Wayne, he hates the rich people, but he also hates the Joker, and he hates the fact, and he underscores this by making the Joker not sort of aware of what he's causing. Like he doesn't actually care about this social revolution happening. That is a good thing, I think, that's presented in the movie, and so that sort of undermines the Joker of it all.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best criticisms I've seen of the movie is people saying that because the mob that the Joker inspires is that just a disorganized mob that's creating chaos, they actually do not, they're proving that they do not deserve the recognition that Thomas Wayne is withholding from them.
That could be, yeah. I mean, does anything change at the end of this movie? At the end of Joker? Like, I
think we're supposed to believe no.
I think so too. I don't think it changed anything. I think he gets locked up and the rich keep on going. I mean, yeah, Thomas Wayne is dead.
Right. So but that's like a shitty sentiment that the poor are so disorganized and dumb that they can't even funnel their rage into a productive way. I mean, that sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
Yeah. We got an email, I don't think I wrote this one down, from a guy talking about how it doesn't show what happens the day after the revolution. Now, pretty much zero movies show what happens the day after the revolution, except, there's one I had in mind. I'm already forgetting. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the social political thing that he's playing with is really just background. I don't think he probably spent as much time thinking about it as he did thinking about just how to make Joaquin Phoenix, scare people. But anyway, all right, we got one more from Jessica. Oh wait, no, go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just so you know, I can't. The voicemails don't play for me. So will you recap it at the end? I didn't hear that last.
All right, you know what? Actually, we're gonna skip that voicemail because it's a long one. Let's go straight to the mailbag.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so hit us up with email, questions, comments, concerns, movies@wisecrack.co. This is from Diego. Diego says, this is about Joker. To me, the ideology of the movie is that society is failing to establish values and norms to the citizens of Gotham, and when this happens, there's a tendency to grab onto idols and make meaning out of their actions when there may not be any. I think this is most clearly shown by Joker not being political and Thomas Wayne clearly not caring about the people, but the media stating he'd be a great candidate for mayor. In this way, the movie does not take a clear stance because the movie shows how social services are needed and how societal values aren't being internalized. He goes on to talk about the transition from tragedy to comedy. The transition from tragedy to comedy is also symbolized with him in the beginning of the movie making himself smile and frown with his hands, and then at the end when he makes a smile out of blood. So it's for this reason I don't think his laugh as a compulsion messes things up, because the times when he is uncomfortable and is forced to laugh by his condition is when people are being mean to him, which is the incongruity of the concept that people have values and the actual object. By the end of it, his laughter isn't forced. He knows people are unjust and works to bring that to the forefront, just like Heath Ledger's portrayal. What do you guys think?
Well, to me, what I got out of Joker more than was less a societal commentary and more just like one man's ascension into madness and, things that can lead to that. And yeah, I guess they do kind of make a point about, the diminishing social programs not being there for someone like him who literally can't help himself. So, I mean, there is that you can get out of it, but I think it's more just like a guy like this, and yeah, he's not political, but yeah.
But what Diego is, at least his first point, is that society is leaving a vacuum because there are no moral exemplars to look up to, that when someone like the Joker comes out and says, like just drops a big old truth bomb or whatever, we're all going to glom on to them even if they don't actually believe their own message.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, yeah, I can totally see that.
I agree. I mean, there's a sort of hopelessness to the movie where, Thomas Wayne is awful, but, the media extols him, and the Joker is similarly awful, and yet the lower class people extol him. And sort of this, both sides are extolling these figures that are not worth extolling, and it leads to nothing. It leads to, horror and, calamity and death. And... I don't think there's any solution the movie posits for this. I think that it says, it is a kill the rich movie where, we kill the rich but nothing changes, and the Joker still gets locked up in the end, and nothing is ever going to be good. The world is too corrupt, too screwed over. We'll never fix it.
Well, there's one obvious thing that we're skipping that obviously changes a shit ton, and that is the fact that Batman is born.
Okay.
I mean, if nothing else, the movie creates Batman.
I guess, yeah. But what do you feel like the movie is saying about, the creation of Batman?
I mean, it depends on what this version... assuming there's a sequel, which they say there isn't going to be, but if there was, we'd only know then. Mm-hmm. What does this version of Batman bring to Gotham?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, isn't the Joker in his own weird way sort of the Batman figure in this movie, kind of, who's like showing, trying to bring truth to, like, he's trying to show off that, Thomas Wayne sucks, and he's trying to bring truth to light, but in his own sort of way.
Well,
and trying to kill, this host that is sort of extolling the lies of media.
One of my favorite things about this movie is that it does seem to be a pretty good reversal of the Nolan Batman, just because even when we were talking in The Dark Knight Rises, how a lot of people have said that Nolan is very much defending, in a sense, like status quo capitalism.
Yep.
And this movie is basically saying that no, the system, if it keeps going the way it is going to be so horrible that it will create someone like the Joker. Mm-hmm. And if for no other reason, I kind of like that reversal of the story. In terms of if the Joker is kind of the Batman in the story, only in that he is, I guess, addressing, or I guess inadvertently addressing, the problem of that Gotham is a shithole, which is what Batman is always trying to fix as well. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on. This is from Everett. He says, my first point about the movie is what took me out of it the most, and you guys touched on it some, is that the framework of the movie being an origin story is mostly irrelevant. If you were to change the names of the Waynes to the Jeffersons and take the story out of the Batman universe, I don't believe it would have made any kind of impact on the movie. This kind of bothered me because while I did enjoy the movie, it felt like the Joker's origin aspect was just a gimmick. Now, on the other side of that statement, if they were to make a sequel to the movie, I would no longer feel this way. A friend of mine suggested that the next movie in the series should be another origin story of a villain, Oswald Cobblepot. If that story were to begin right where the city was on fire, and it could be a fascinating story of how a man of great wealth becomes a villain, giving us both sides of the coin, do you think this would be the start to a next great Batman series? Along the same lines, I do want to give one huge positive to the film. I love the intimate understanding we got of how awful Gotham had become pre-Batman days. I don't think we've gotten a live-action Batman movie that really shows us how much of a crisis the city was in. We're only given lip service to the idea. Usually you just hear a character say something like, Gotham is full of crime and dirty, but we usually see scenes of clean streets or inside Wayne Manor, which is immaculate. I love how the Joker brought us into the terrible world of Gotham and made us feel, even in a small way, that in a city as bad that in a city that bad, anyone could have one bad day and become the Joker. From Everett.
I don't know if I completely agree, because I think like using the Batman mythos to sort of comment on, you know, the social ills sort of demyths sort of the Batman sort of, you know, ethos and I mean, we think of Thomas Wayne typically as, you know, a tragic figure, and here he's recast as, you know, a sexual abuser. I mean, that is a big, you know, choice, and I think recontextualizes what we think of Batman.
Yeah, there's this whole meta thing in that the Batman mythos and the Gotham mythos is something that we're all invested in, and we all only understand it through a lens of, yes, things are bad, but really it's just because of the innate corruption of mankind that Batman has to just pummel until it stops. Whereas in this version, we are kind of giving quote-unquote recognition to the fact that no, there actually may be social causes that create this. So that when we perhaps after seeing this movie we see Batman beating the shit out of criminals, we say to ourselves, oh well, maybe it's his dad being a jackass that made these people turn to crime. I mean, that's an interesting thing.
No, I agree.
All right,
I agree.
This next one's from Adam. He said, I just listened to the Show Me the Meaning episode on Joker and just wanted to drop a line regarding the movie's depiction of the comedy-tragedy dichotomy. While you described the film as straddling the line between the two, I would argue it often straight up subverts our assumptions about what's funny and what isn't, thus getting us closer to Arthur's point of view. At multiple points, the film depicts horrible events as funny, the best example being the midget joke after killing the clown. The traditional gag material is as just sad, most memorably Arthur hitting the glass door at the hospital. This reflects how Arthur often laughs, albeit involuntarily, at lame attempts at a joke, like suggesting super cats as a solution to Gotham's rat problem, and similarly making lame and twisted jokes in his notebook, the same place where he kept his journal about the negative experiences of his life. From Adam. This is something that I want to revisit. I actually... Both Tommy, Ryan, and I saw another movie this weekend. We saw Parasite. Actually, all three of us got tickets to the event, but did not plan on go together. We just all randomly saw each other at the same theater. But
it is playing only at like 2 theaters, to be fair. But
yeah, it's playing in 3 theaters in the nation. Great movie. We can cover it on this podcast if you guys are interested. But we talked about Joker a bit, and I just said I need to see it again. And this is one of the reasons, as far as whether it's a tragedy or a comedy, and then Lux's whole thing about saying that perhaps it is inviting us to laugh at it when it's at its more serious moments. I just got to see it again.
Mm-hmm. I do think there is a condescending tone to those moments in particular. When I think it is a laugh moment when the small person cannot reach the lock and she has to ask for, you know, the Joker's help to do so. I think it is a actual laugh moment when he knocks into the glass. I think you're supposed to sort of be like, oh, how pathetic, that kind of feel.
Yeah, but obviously you don't laugh.
Yeah, I mean, it's more
maybe one of them more than the other. It's more of a
mean-spirited, like, haha, these people.
Yeah. All right, this last one, and then we're going to wrap it up from Rudd. Rudd says, I've noticed, and maybe it's Rudd, maybe it's Rude, I apologize if I got it wrong. Something I noticed in the debate surrounding Joker, which I'm curious to get your take on. In many media outlets, there's reference to the great outcry surrounding the portrayal of violence in Joker and a huge amount of articles that supposedly voice these concerns. Only I'm struggling to find the actual articles that are alluded to. It reminds me of the Tide Pod Challenge. That was a hoax until it was reported as an actual thing by media that didn't realize it was a fake story. Only then did people actually start to put their health at risk by chewing the gooey packages. In this case, however, some huge discussion is referenced quite extensively. Many people talk about it, professional journalists and amateurs alike give their 2 cents, mostly, yeah, the studio can't be held responsible and variations thereof, and people move on to other talking points. It seems more of a meta discussion on a debate that only exists in a way smaller size than people seem to think, and the actual debate is sort of sidetracked. How do you guys feel about this? And have maybe there been more stories that you actually remember that I can't lay my hands on? He also says, we got a couple emails about this. So also the article points to a bit of misinformation that you seem to have unknowingly perpetuated in the Joker episode, namely that the Aurora shooter was committed by someone dressed as the Joker. The whole ordeal had nothing to do with the character. The perpetuator, Holmes, selected that venue because there were many people. Even the DA said so. So
he just had dyed red hair.
Yeah, but the Joker had green hair.
I know. I'm just saying that I think that's why some people got that impression that his hair was dyed.
Yeah, I think so too. There are plenty of things that I'm sure all of us believe because of the media that are entirely false. So, yeah, I apologize for perpetuating that. Oh, yeah. Ryan has
I know everything.
Yeah, 100% objective truth is the only thing that enters Ryan's mind. I think, is what Rudd's saying that people are writing articles about how people aren't, or that the studio isn't responsible for violence at these theaters that didn't happen? Is that what he's saying?
I think what he's saying is a complaint I often have, where it's like there's some news story or some debate that's going around, and it's like, I heard people are really upset about this, and then it's like every article is like 4 people on Twitter said this, and it's kind of like, all right, everyone in the country's having a debate based on a couple somebody cherry picks some stupid people on Twitter, and now we're all talking about it. I think that's what he's kind of saying, is that is anyone really upset about or blaming the studios? Is anyone, is that part of, is there a movement for that really, or is it just kind of a feeling that there is one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a self-creating controversy where you talk about what the controversy is and then in turn create a controversy over talking about that.
Oh yeah, because anger sells so well that there was Alec was talking about this a while ago, that there was this controversy, like apparently 4 people on Twitter got mad at Home Depot for something, and then of course some journalist picked it up and said, oh wow, people getting angry gets a lot of clicks, I want to be able to feed my family today, so I'm going to write this article about how people are boycotting Home Depot. And then someone else wants to feed their family that day as another journalist who probably gets paid shit doing freelance work, and he says, oh wow, if this article says that people are boycotting Home Depot, they must be boycotting Home Depot, so I'm going to write that in my publication. And then it just spirals, and to where literally we've created a media shitstorm over 4 people on Twitter, 3 of which are probably Russian trolls.
Yeah, I feel like the Joker as incel was started by people saying, I hope this movie doesn't become a Joker as an incel type of story. So it wasn't like the movie was promoting being an incel. It was people commenting on the fact that, I hope that doesn't happen, and thus in turn creating the very thing that they're commenting against. So
I know the only incel movie is Taxi Driver.
Oh yeah, fair. Well, I mean, this is Taxi Driver, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't. I think I like this movie better than Taxi Driver. I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I saw Taxi Driver recently.
It's a hot take, Jared. It's a super hot take.
It is a hot take. I'm trying to make my takes more lukewarm. But I gotta keep it. I gotta keep it real with that one. I don't like Taxi Driver. I mean, I get that it evokes a mood, but King of Comedy's way better.
It is better.
All right. Anyway, guys,
ahead of its time.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Ryan, for joining me. Where can we find you guys on the internet, Ryan?
I put out comedy shorts on Ryan's Shorts every week, and sometimes you can find me on the Funhouse channel playing video games.
And Tommy.
You can find me at TC4949.
All right, we're going to be back next week. I don't remember. Oh, I think we're maybe covering Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, hell yeah.
But we also might do Parasite if you guys want. If you guys want us to do Parasite, I don't know if anyone's seen it since it's only playing in 3 theaters in the country right now, but let us know. And until then, get us out, Ryan.
Goodbye from Hollywood, California.
Peace.